This is the FlipNerd.com Expert Real Estate Investing Show, the show for real estate investors, whether you're a veteran or brand new. I'm your host, Mike Hambright, and each week I bring you a new expert guest that will share their knowledge and lessons with you. If you're excited about real estate investing, believe in personal responsibility, and taking control of your life and financial destiny, you're in the right place. This is episode number 351, and my guest today is Luis Ontiveros. Do you ever feel like you can't overcome challenges that you may be facing in your life? Truthfully, you probably agree with me that it inspires you when you hear how someone else overcame something far worse than what we've personally had to deal with and found success, which often makes our challenges and our complaints pale in comparison. Well, I don't want to steal the thunder from today's show, but today Luis shares that how he was hanging around with the wrong people from an early age, and that landed him in prison. Now, he left prison and had the mindset that he had a blank canvas to start his life over, and he could paint any picture that he wanted. And he's gone on to create a very successful real estate investing business that operates in many different markets and even several states. Today, Luis shares some of his tactics on how to overcome this challenging market that we find ourselves in and how to squeeze more juice from the lemons or the leads that we're already creating, if you will. It would be easy to take our ball and go home in this market. But when you've overcome something major in your life, well, a challenging market doesn't seem so bad, does it? So this is a powerful episode. Let's go ahead and get started. Please help me welcome Luis Ontiveros to the show. So, Luis, welcome to the show, my friend.
Mikey, thank you so much, man. It's a true honor to be on the show, man. I'm super excited. I
appreciate you being here. I know we've been talking about it for a while. You were elusive for like the last year, and we finally pinned you down.
Staying busy, man. Staying busy. But super glad I made it, man. Appreciate you.
Well, great to see you. So we were talking before the show a little bit about how to survive. Like, what are you doing to survive right now in a competitive market? And of course, you're in California, which is, Dallas is super competitive. It feels really competitive, more than it ever has for me in the past 10 years. But I know that California markets are just as competitive and have their own challenges. And, truthfully, every market has its own challenges right now, right?
Absolutely. No, California is it's smoking hot right now. I mean, I'm in San Diego, California. That's where I live. And we're in about 6 or 7 different markets in California. And every single one of those is competition has risen. Every time, our team is talking to homeowners, they have a few different options and postcards and stuff like that in front of them. So it's definitely pushed us to get more creative and just find a way to make it happen and stay profitable.
That's awesome. Well, hey, before we get into talking about this, and for those listening, Luis is going to share some tactics on what he's doing to kind of beat the competition in today's market. So it's going to be great. But tell us your background and your story and kind of how you got started in real estate investing.
Okay, well, it's an interesting story, and I'm basically from Mexico and came over here to study college. Grew up on the border. I'm from Mexicali. And, when I came over here, I basically took a route that in life I was young and I was, just reckless and doing stuff that I shouldn't have been doing. And, I ended up in a bad situation. So when I was 23, I ended up, dealing with the wrong people and got caught up in some organized crime and just drug related situations and got arrested and ended up doing 13 months in state prison. So that's heavy, but it is my story and it's the truth. For some time in my past, I was even ashamed to share that, but as one of my good mentors told me one time, he said, "Luis, your mess is your message." So that really made a shift in my mindset, and then every time I share it, somebody is either inspired or appreciates the fact that happened. So the real estate story really begins after that, is because when I came out in 2009. I I was basically, I had a blank canvas, right? Like a lot of people do right now in life, and
Yep.
every day we have that. But the canvas was blank, the brushes and the paint were right there, and it was up to me to paint whatever picture I wanted to paint. And so I got married. I came out a different man, and thank God for that. And got married, had my daughter, and I had to make a living somehow. So I started selling phones on eBay, and was living with my parents at the time. So I was just hustling to make stuff happen, and create a better life for my family and myself. But it wasn't cutting it. So I started to get desperate, and my wife and my daughter, we were living in a tiny little room, and we wanted a better life. So I've always had an interest in real estate, and it's interesting how I came across it, because I remember one night, it was a point of desperation where I was on my knees, I was praying, and I was like, Lord, just give me some direction, show me something. All I want is a good living for my family and myself. And so one of these days, we were looking at possibly moving out and renting a house or something like that. And I was looking on Redfin and Zillow, which, seeing the properties, and I ran across these houses that were beautiful, right? They had the granite countertops, brand new appliances, fresh coat of paint. And I started looking at the price history, and I was like, whoa, somebody bought this like 2 months ago for like half the price. And so that's kind of when a light bulb went on. And I told my wife, hey, we got to do this. This is, we can flip houses and stuff like that. So that's when the spark began. The interest came along, and I started going to the auctions, started going, just kind of, I was trying to get myself fully immersed, but really didn't have a clue of what the heck I was doing. And it wasn't until I was just scrolling the internet, and I came across this video from it's Michael Jake. He's in our group.
That's right, Mike Jake. He's been on the show before as well. Yeah.
And he was basically saying, how can you buy, I'm going to give you 10 ways to buy houses with no money, no credit. And he started going over it, assignments of contract, double escrow, subject to, just going down the list, right? And then I downloaded this free audio that he was giving away, and I went to the gym and I just devoured it. And that audio was talking about wholesaling, how you can basically put a property under contract and flip it to another buyer legally with no money or no credit or anything for that matter. So, so after that, I really just started, I am a product of, other people's information products. That's the reality, and
we all are though. Yeah.
And that's awesome. And so I started, I bought a course, and I started putting it into action. And it wasn't easy. It took me months to get going, but I remember at one point I was so close that I had a $50,000 deal under contract, and then the seller backed out. And everybody was already celebrating, everybody was going crazy, and the naysayers were getting crushed, and all of a sudden, I lost that. So a lot of people would have given up right there and then. But that's when you're really 3 feet from gold, right? When, like I say, don't give up, keep going. And I did, and then I got my first deal, and then the rest is history, basically.
Yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate you sharing your story here. I've heard, we're in a mastermind group together with a bunch of really incredible real estate investors, and I've heard the longer version of your story there. And I remember looking around like there's a bunch of grown men just weeping like babies, but just the fact that of the challenges that you've overcome, and a lot of people in our group have overcome challenges. And I think that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. Is a lot of us are facing a challenge right now in this competitive market, and not that challenge compares to what you've been through, or anybody listening to this, you may have hit bottom in something in your life that has caused a problem here. But hopefully what we're going to explain to you today is how you can overcome anything. And a lot of us that are whining about a difficult market, like, we can definitely overcome this, but you gotta be willing to put in the effort and put in the work to get it done, because the low hanging fruit just isn't as available right now as it used to be. Do you agree with that, Luis?
Absolutely. And like you said, you got to be willing to to make some changes, and that not only changes in what you do and how you take action, but changes in how you think and how you feel every single day.
Yeah.
Because I remember one last thing regarding this story, because I had like $3,000 left to my name to and provide for my family, and I was at the point where I was getting desperate. I was getting a little scared, but I decided to choose faith instead of fear, and that's a choice that we can make every single day. And I believed that we could do it, and that I could do it. And you know, one of the things that I think that helped us out is, and we'll get into this here in a second, but I started. One of my mentors said, whenever there's a lack in your life, especially like a financial, like you need to give, right? So even when I didn't have, I started giving, and I think that's one of the things that helped turn everything around for me. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about, um, why it's important to do things differently in this market. And I'll start by sharing. I kind of share this story with you. Is I found myself Dallas is really competitive right now. We're doing some things differently, going to moving out to some new markets and things. But I find myself feeling how competitive it is, and talking with other veteran investors I know that are like struggling. It's like this is really difficult here right now. And then you see somebody that's like brand new, that's
Mm.
just like crushing it. It's like I know somebody that literally just started in the past year, and they're going to do like 40 or 50 deals here this year, and they're not spending as much as I am on advertising. And it's like, what what do they know that I don't? And I look back, like that's how I was when I started in 2008. Everybody was running away, and we were just crushing it because we didn't have these hangups about how the old market used to be. And so let's talk a little bit about, you know, why you have to do things differently and why you have to kind of reset yourself mentally. Any kind of thoughts on um, how a lot of us carry forward baggage from the good old days or how things used to be, and that brings us down. I mean, what are your thoughts there?
Are you looking to change your life through real estate investing? If you're interested in either getting started or taking your business to the next level, please check out FlipNerd's private program at theinvestormachine.com. This is the most robust real estate investor coaching, networking, and mastermind on the planet, and designed for your success. If you're ready to roll up your sleeves, ready to take personal responsibility for your own success, and ready to dive into a world-class instructional coaching program that provides you step-by-step instruction to help you achieve financial freedom, then you should apply today. Spaces are limited, and candidates are only considered after an application and interview process. Our 12-month investor program is unparalleled. Think you might be a fit? Learn more today at theinvestormachine.com.
How a lot of us carry forward baggage from how the good old days or how things used to be, and that brings us down. I mean, what are your thoughts there?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think it's important to always be growing, right? Regardless of what the market is doing, or what's going on. I mean, you always want to be sharpening your mind, sharpening your tool set, and just becoming a more evolved human being. So that's number one. And hand in hand with that is, real estate markets, they're always going to be changing. As you know, that's the only constant that there is in real estate is change.
Yep.
Right? Always going to change. So, I mean, yeah, a couple of years ago, we had this, we had the luxury of being a little bit spoiled, right? Just send out some mail, leads come in, offers go out, put deals together, and it was great. But right now, it's a little different, and there's a lot of competition, a lot of new people coming into the markets. Now you're talking to a seller, and their mindset is it's a seller's market. We got options, we can sell. So one of the things that I think it's super important is to get out of that old mindset where things used to work, and start looking for new ways to stay profitable, right? And basically asking yourself, where is the motivation? Because when we all started, we were all talking about finding a motivated seller, and everything changes with motivated, right? When you have a motivated seller in your life, things get easy a little bit,
Yeah.
at least on the money side. And
Yeah.
so the question is, where do these motivated sellers live, right? You need to ask yourself that. I ask myself that every day, and then I try to go find them wherever that is, right? So
Yeah.
that's one of the ways that that we're doing things that are helping us, stay profitable.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, that mental. There's so much of this that's in our heads. Like, this is how we do it. This is how we always do it. We get even if we think we're, king of our own hill. Like, you just start to get lazy. You get a little comfortable. You get your systems and processes in place, but maybe don't keep them updated. And the reality is markets shift. So I think once the great thing about this message is that if you can crack the code on this and you understand that markets are going to shift and you always need to be looking around the corner, then, I guess the beauty of the real estate investing business, the opportunity that we have is not just to be able to do well in one market, it's to be able to thrive for decades, right? Is to be able to transcend any market up or down. I know what I'm going to do here. I mean, the reality is people that invest in the stock market, people that are successful real estate investors or investment managers, they have that strategy. They know, hey, in an up market, I'm going to do this. In a down market, I'm going to do that. They have different levers they're pulling to kind of take advantage of whatever's going on. And in real estate, we kind of get hung up on this is the one way to do things all the time. And that's just not the case, right? It's no different than the stock market.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And something that reflects exactly on what you're talking about is, for example, a couple of years ago, I've always been a straight wholesaler, right? And just flipping contracts and stuff like that. And lately, last year and this year, we've been actually taking down a couple properties and rehabbing them and maximizing profits. Couple examples of that is properties that were not deals. They were just, they were deals, but they weren't wholesale deals. They were tight.
Right.
So, we got one right now that we bought for 190 and it was worth, 240, but it needed just, 3,000-4,000 paint, stuff like that. And that's the kind of deals that we're taking down that are making a difference. And it turns into a $0 deal into a $50,000 deal, $40,000.
Yeah. Yeah, and we teach that too. Like, a lot of people that say, well, I only wholesale. It's like one of the challenges we have is making the most out of our advertising dollars, right? But if you truly only wholesale, there are deals like you just explained where you might be able to make 20, 30,000 if you take ownership, put a little bit of work into it and turn it around and sell it as a retail deal, but you might not be able to make anything as a wholesale deal because you couldn't get it cheap enough because maybe the person, I don't know the situation of that deal that you just shared, but sometimes people, sometimes you're buying a house and that's their payoff. They're like, I'll walk away with $0 or like $1,000, but I'm not bringing money to the table. And sometimes it's like, well, you might be able to make that work if you retail it or you take ownership of it. But if you get two different investors in the middle with 2 rounds of closing costs and all that, then it just doesn't work.
Exactly. And a couple of ways that to maximize their advertising spend and all that is, you could take down a couple of rehabs. There's a lot of lenders that one of the things that we were doing is something that I was calling double dipping, but basically is we get the wholesale price and then, it could be a little bit advanced, but we have the contract with the seller, then I would assign it to myself at another entity and then make that profit in the middle and use that for rehab money, right? So,
right.
And put a little pocket in my money and then get the other half of the deal on the back end when I sell it. So, for people that might be tight on funds and stuff like that, that's a great way to be able to take down a rehab with little money out of pocket. You just got to find a lender that is willing to do that, and there's a ton of them out there. Another way is refer leads to agents. You want to know a good agent in your area that, hey, maybe they don't want to wholesale the property or give it to you at a low price, but they want to sell it. Give it to that agent, refer it, and then he'll cut you a little percentage or a little fee for the referral fee. Stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, in the info marketing space, like if you're advertising online, there are a lot of the top info marketers. When you're not in the space, you don't really maybe get this, but those of you that are, you'll understand it, is there's a lot of focus on trying to get your advertising to break even. So I sell some low dollar product to offset my marketing cost. And you could do that in the real estate investing space with what you just said, is you can refer leads to an agent. You're not going to get rich doing that, but if it helps offset your marketing cost or allows you to advertise more, then that's really the purpose of that. It's not to make money from generating leads and giving them to agents, but it helps offset your marketing costs, right?
Maximizing every single lead. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus it helps that person. Like they needed a solution. It turns out you weren't the right solution to buy the property for cash at a deep discount, but they still need to sell it. They still have a problem. So it allows you to kind of help more people ultimately.
Helps the person, helps the agent. Now the agent is willing to help you out whenever you need anything.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about, let's kind of dive into, in terms of doing things differently. Let's talk about what people need to be thinking about, and maybe some of the things that you are doing from a lead generation standpoint. Like what is different now than it was 4 or 5 years ago when the market was not as competitive as it is today?
Well, that's a good question, Mike. And if we were having this conversation 2 years ago, I would have told you that my bread and butter was absentee owners, right? And yeah, there's still deals and absentee owners. I mean, we mail them still, but I've noticed that the cost per deal has gone up the roof. So when I started noticing that, I started asking myself the question, like I said, where is the motivation? Where do they live, right? And where can I find them? So one of the things that working really well for us, if anybody's not doing this, you probably need to get on it, is going down to the county or mailing the county and asking them for a tax delinquent list. Okay. Tax delinquent properties. I've done it a couple ways. I've downloaded the ready to mail data that you can find online in certain subscription services. And I've done it getting it straight from the county, converting that data into mailable and usable data, and then mailing and skip tracing and calling those sellers. And black and white, honestly. So right there, when we mail the tax delinquent, my sales team, they love it. I mean, they're talking to motivated sellers. I mean, they're not everyone, but there is those sellers that call and say, hey, I got this situation. They're usually tied to more title problems, so escrows are going to be a little more chaotic and stuff like that. But hey, it's part of it's the name of the game, and that's just how it is. So we're doing the tax delinquents. You can get the free list, or I don't know. Some counties charge, some counties don't, but you can get the list from the county, and then you just need to find some data company to convert that data for you, and then you can get it.
Right. So I know there's some list providers that provide tax delinquent data, but you're saying you've got an advantage if you go get it directly, because there's probably maybe some incremental data that they don't provide you when you buy in a list format, or.
In my experience, Mike, and I've tested both ways, I've had better results with the one that I get from the county. I don't know why. I'm not saying the data's not good, but that's just my results.
Yeah.
The data that we get directly from the county seems to give us more.
Yeah. So one thing I want to kind of point out here is what you're suggesting to do is hard, right? It's harder than subscribing to a list or going to list source and just downloading data in your boxers at 3 a.m. and sending it to a VA to ship out your letters. That's easy. Or teaching your VA how to do it, and you don't even do it at all.
Exactly.
I think, hopefully what we're going to kind of take this conversation is that the stuff that is harder to do to generate leads is what you have to do to survive and thrive in a competitive market, because everybody and their brother is, all of the real estate training, everybody and their brother's a real estate investor now, which we love people that are real estate investors. So we're not talking down to those people, but the reality is they all go right to absentee owners with a certain amount of equity, or to, probate lists that you can buy online, or other things that are kind of easy, right? So the people that separate themselves from the pack are the ones that are willing to roll up their sleeves, right? Kind of roll them up and go do the hard work, right?
Exactly. And totally. I mean, you made the point, Mike, because it's not easy. I can pull an absentee owner list in an hour and be ready to mail.
Yeah.
Less. But doing what I just told you with the tax delinquencies, it takes me about a week to get it to the point where I can use that data. If everything goes smoothly, it takes you about a week to get the data, because they usually mail it to you unless you go and pick it up. So, that's the difference, right? And then it's honestly, it's a headache to get it done. But once you do it once or twice, it becomes a little easier, and it's totally, totally worth it. everybody that I've ever told this strategy, and it's usually just people in my circle of friends that are close, they come back and they're thanking me later.
Yeah.
Another thing that that I want to share, Mike, if it's okay, is that's similar to that mindset of doing things that are counterintuitive, things that are not just the easy way, the path of least resistance, right? Is we're basically, and this is still in beta mode, like I told you, but we're putting out ads on Craigslist and all the markets that we're in, and we're basically putting an ad that says make $1 a day or make 100 a day. And basically, it's hiring people to go drive around and flag down the vacant properties or the tear down, just properties that look that they're in distress. So then they come back and they need to submit the lead through an online portal, and they need to have a picture of the house showing the house number and the address, and it has to be beat up. So then once that happens, we pay them $1 to $3. We're probably going to bump up the price because the 1 in 3 seems that they get demotivated pretty easily. So we're probably going to bump it to about $5, $5 a lead. And, we've got a couple deals out of that. It's still kind of new, but it's, it seems to be working. So I think
And then the process, and what do you do from there? So you find a vacant house. And so the interesting thing, I want to hear more about your process. So, a lot of people do refer to as driving for dollars, right? You're out driving for dollars and you visually find something that looks like it's distressed or vacant, right? But what you don't know behind the scenes, and I bet this is part of your process, is to research it, to find out, does somebody live there or do they live somewhere else? Maybe how long they've owned it for. Does it even have equity in it? Right. So sometimes you don't know those things unless you do research, which is part of what we're talking about here. That's the hard work. Like you found something, but some people would just go mail to that address or put a door hanger on there or stick a business card in the side of the door, right? But because that's easy, that's what everybody does. We've all seen those vacant houses where you walk up and it's got a bunch of business cards and door hangers and notes on there. And people are doing the easy stuff. But tell us how to be more effective. What's the harder way?
Well, a couple of things is number one, we put them on a monthly mail campaign, and that's because the lists are not that big at this time. So mailing them monthly is definitely one thing that you want to do. And then the other thing, we skip trace every single property. We find the owner if it's available, if the data is available, and we have somebody actually cold call them and tell them, hey, we drove by your property. I'm an investor in the area, and I love to pay cash. And some of them say no. Some of them, they'll respond positively. But skip tracing the property is an extra step that requires going into your skip trace software, pulling some data, and actually doing a little digging to make sure you're finding the right person, and then calling him. Nobody likes cold calling, but hey, it's what you got to do. You got to do
it. Yeah. And it's, you can create systems for people that are cold calling too, right? So as the owner, as you're hearing some of this, for those of you that are like, man, I don't do any of that stuff myself, but you can create systems and teach people how to do it. And I think we sometimes get hung up on my cost per lead. Like, yeah, I'll spend $3,000 and buy a house, or in some markets, 5, 6, 7, 8 grand to buy a house. And that's fine. And it's like, well, but sometimes we look at cost per lead. Okay, well, I need 30 leads to buy a house. And so if I can pay under $200 a lead, that'll get me to $6,000 and I'm cool with that. It's like, okay, well, you don't really care what your cost per lead is. Like if you did all this extra work, it might make your cost per lead much more expensive, but you have a much, much higher conversion rate on some leads because the quality is so much better ultimately because you did the homework, right?
High quality leads. These are high quality leads that you just want to stay on and keep following up until they're gone. Basically.
Yeah. And I know people, we both know people that, and I'm calling myself out here. We send out a lot of direct mail. We get the postcards back, and sometimes they just sit in a box for a while. Like we don't really get to them right away, but you and I both know people, and I don't know exactly what you do, that are automatically, they have a process of kind of skip tracing that person and trying to find out if they're somewhere else, because that's part of what we're talking about here, doing the legwork that most others won't do because they just consider that, well, that's just a byproduct. I mean, I sent out 10,000 letters and I got a few hundred back, big deal. But the reality is that
if you're getting those back, the post office doesn't even know where that person's at, probably, because a lot of us use, I can't remember what it's called, but the post office kind of scrubs those addresses before our mail house sends them. And so the good thing is the bad thing is those people are hard to find. The good thing is those people are hard to find, so most people won't look for them, right?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And one way that that's also good, and this is a way that I've actually found like true vacant houses, is through that software called AccuZip. And it's basically, that's a software that's meant to reduce the amount of return mail, right? So that it's not really meant to find vacant houses, but they run whatever list you're going to mail through the vacant database from the United States Postal Service, which they don't disclose the properties, but they know the addresses, and if you run your list, they'll match and append it, right? So flag it, okay, this ones are vacant. So a lot of those, if you mail them, they're going to come back. And some of them are rental properties, vacation homes. There's all kinds of other stuff, or they're selling the property, it's vacant. But there is some gold in that. I mean, if you just run your list, flag the vacants, and then skip trace and call them, I mean, that's another thing. Yeah, it's laborious, but there's deals in there. Aside from just downloading an absentee owner list and mailing it, which is totally fine, and there's deals in that too, but it's going to be an uphill battle in today's market.
Yeah, we're seeing it more than ever. We go to an appointment, and they've got, sometimes they show us like a stack of letters or postcards. Yeah, I got like 30 letters or postcards. It's like, okay, well, and I called 10 of them, and so you're one of 10. You got to compete now. So yeah, I mean, that's what I would do. I get it, but for us, it's like, can you find the ones that they only got your letter, or they only got your phone call, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Luis, let's talk a little bit about how you have kind of been on the cutting edge in terms of your mentality of just giving back. And I know that, it's counterintuitive. And I know there's going to be people that are listening to this right now, that it's counterintuitive that, man, I am down. I've been beat down. I don't have a lot of resources. I just have to figure out a way to use real estate to get ahead. And you were there too, but you found that even when you were at kind of the bottom, before you found your way up, that kind of having the mentality to kind of give back and share has been a big part of your success.
Absolutely. Before I ever made a dime in real estate, one of my virtual mentors basically told me that you need, if you wanted to become successful, you need to become a giver. Which is the opposite of what everybody normally. The way our human nature really is. We're all, when we're little kids, I want that cookie. I don't want to give it away. And and I was challenged by that. And I remember, like I said, I had $3,000 in my bank account. I was marketing for sellers. I was spending money on direct mail. I was running out, but I was like, what? If I don't get it, if I run out of cash in marketing, I'm gonna get a loan. I'm gonna do something, but I'm gonna die trying, and I'm gonna make this happen, right? So. But one of the things that I noticed that shifted, and it's still, I mean, I think we wouldn't be having this conversation, Mike. We wouldn't have met at our mastermind if it wasn't because of this, because I learned to become a giver, right? And not only monetary wise, but with your time, with your talent. And but I'll give you a quick story. Before, when I was getting started, and I learned this from my mentor. He said, give 10% of every dime that comes into your household. And yes, this is going to be a challenge for a lot of people, but I challenge you to do it because it's going to change your life. I guarantee you that if you're consistent with it, you will see unnatural things happen that are amazing. And so I had a little bit of money, and I sent some money to this guy that I knew. He really, really needed it. He was a guy that I met inside. And I remember he never had any money. He never had any food in there. And, I just anonymously sent him $50, right? And then, I was just driving down the street. I saw this homeless guy. I've changed a little bit in that and now, but back then I would just like step out of the car and, I had, here's $50. Here's, whatever. And all of a sudden, I know I'm not saying you're going to get deals if you do this, but this is what happened for me. All of a sudden, like, deals or motivated sellers started calling me, right? And it's happened to this day. Like, I'll give you an example. Another quick story is that I did that once I started doing deals. I had my 10% and I was looking for places where to give it. I had this ticket at court, or this traffic ticket that I had to pay, and I had to go in there, and I was waiting there at the, with the jury and all the people that are waiting to get their case heard, and there was this judge, and she was just crushing people. She was just like, no, $1,000, just killing people. I mean, no mercy, right? And then this little girl came up, and she was like, I was there for like 2 hours. She came up, and she was saying like, oh, I missed my court date and my daughter, and then the check bounced, and the judge was like, you have a fine of $300. Go pay over there. And something told me like, hey, pay her fine. So I raised my hand. The court was quiet. Everybody was just like, just in silence and scared. And I raised my hand, and the judge looked up at me like, are you serious? Like, what? And I was like, I want to pay your fine. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I want to pay your fine. And then she's like, why? I don't know. We've all been in situations, and I just want to help her out. So she said, fine. So I went over there, gave her the money, and she went away and paid it. And the feeling, the vibe in that courtroom like totally changed. All of a sudden, the judge started showing mercy. And,
yeah.
And I got my case dismissed, by the way. So
oh wow,
that was awesome. But the bottom line, what I'm trying to say is like, that's how aggressive I was with like looking for ways to be a giver. Like if you're at a gas station, just find a way to help somebody out. It will come back to you.
Yeah.
And just recently, just the last quick little story here. We had about $113,000 deal that the seller wanted to back out, and we've been being challenged with that for the last couple months. And we stay consistent in giving, and we donated to Make-A-Wish. We granted a wish to this nice young kid that's unfortunate situation, and got a call on Monday from the lawyer that they decided that we're going to move forward. We're going to pay him a little more, about $20K more, but the deal's moving forward. So just stuff like that happens where when you're in that frequency, if you will, like you're bound to receive good things, right? You get what
the universe speaks, right?
Exactly. Universe, God, whatever you believe in, but it is the way it is. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for spending some time with us today, and thanks for sharing your story. I know that it's an inspiring story, and I know you didn't tell the longer version and get a whole lot of detail here, but hopefully people that are watching today or listening today picked up enough to know that, no matter how bad your situation is, or no matter where you came from, or no matter where you started, or no matter how bad your market is right now, we can overcome this stuff, right?
Amen. Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can do it, ex-con, there's no excuse. Anybody can do it.
Yeah, I think I didn't say this earlier, but I think one of the things that I would encourage people that are listening to this to do, and I get, this kind of stresses me out with just, the political climate and stuff like that. It's easy to get pulled into what side you believe is right. And so I don't want to go there, but I will say that it feels like it's gotten far easier than ever before in my life for people to be labeled a victim, and maybe even label themselves a victim. And politicians do that because that helps us get our votes. So if you vote for me, then I'll get you all the stuff that you deserve. It's like, well, if you have that mentality, it's going to be hard for you to be successful in business. And I think even if you have been a victim, don't label yourself a victim. If things are tough, you can overcome them. And hopefully sharing your story with us today will trigger some people. I know that at one point, Michael Jake did not know your story, and that you had appreciated everything that he had taught you, and he didn't even know that. And when he found out, it was just, kind of it's one of those things that just makes your year, right? You kind of hear that you impacted somebody's life in a positive way. And so hopefully with our listeners and our watchers and people listening today, hopefully you're you're going to impact somebody's life there. And in fact, I know that I appreciate your story, and I get a lot out of it myself, and hopefully some others have today. So, well, before we end here, if folks want to learn more about you or learn more about some of the things you're doing, where should they go?
It's a good question, Mike. I have a website that they can go to. It's a chains, like chains.
Okay.
To riches.com. chains2riches.com.
Okay.
I send out a few emails every now and then, and anybody that wants to get in touch, go in there and just reply to the email, and I'll get that.
We're going to add a link for chains2riches.com down below. Hey, Luis, sorry, you froze up there for a second. So chains2riches.com, and we'll add a link down below the video for that.
Yeah. Awesome, brother. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, and for everybody that joins today, this is episode number 351, and we're going to keep cranking them out for you, and I appreciate guys and ladies like Luis, not that Luis is a lady, everybody that's been on our show. I appreciate them. We've got a lot of great shows, a lot of great content. And just when I think there's nothing else we could talk about that we haven't talked about before, we have a show like today. So thank you, Luis, for sharing your story with us and your time.
Mike, you're awesome, man. Thank you very much for having me. It was a true honor. And everybody, take care and God bless you.
Awesome. Thanks. Everybody, thanks for joining us today. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the FlipNerd.com Investing Show. If you're not yet an elite member of FlipNerd, you're missing out. We have tons of great training, including a new detailed masterclass published each month and live training webinars with experts twice a month. Plus, you'll get access to all of our archives, where we already have a growing library of masterclasses and other training videos. Elite members also get membership in our incredible online mastermind group, where many of the top real estate investors from across the country, including many of the hundreds of guests I've had on the show in the past, are already members. Whether you're brand new, looking to get started, or a veteran, you simply must join today. I promise you won't be disappointed. To learn more or join today, please visit flipnerd.com/lab. That's flipnerd.com/lab. See you on the next show.